It's funny, SASAH has been probably the most instrumental thing in terms of how it's changed my teaching. That is to say, before SASAH, I would say I was just a kind of classic, traditional teacher, loved what I did, but I had never thought of taking students out of the class, doing projects out in the city, doing archival projects perhaps, yes, but not. And your year, we didn't go out into the city, but it's really SASAH that had me start doing projects where students would go out into the city. We did projects in the cemetery. We did projects on the history of London. So it both changed how I taught, and and enlarged that, and it also changed how I saw London, because prior to that, I did not really understand the city I live in. So that was the beginning of taking me outside the campus, both in terms of my teaching and in terms of my own interests and my own work. The need that SASAH fills within the community, and it's true if we're talking about the university community, but also the larger community. It has built bridges with different sectors of our community. It's not by chance that SASAH had a student who went on to be a Rhodes Scholar, and one of the things that was instrumental in their moving forward and becoming a Rhodes Scholar was that the first project they did in the Woodland Cemetery then became a job they had at the Woodland Cemetery, which then became a whole series of research projects that made them into a major researcher in the city. And I'm sure that something like Rhodes would not have failed to notice that. So that this ability to, it's not a leap from the classroom and the campus to the city. It's a series of steps that bring both the campus and the community along together. I would have to say that SASAH, one of the features about SASAH is that it's really at the forefront of thinking about what the humanities are and where they're going. You're now going to be in the second year class, so I don't get to have you again in the first year class. But the whole first term is going to be about the question of what is it to be human? What is it to be a humanist? Is it to have the humanities? And which has changed enormously. If the humanities goes back to the 16th century, it's changed enormously, and it's changed very fast in the last 10 years or so. And SASAH is really at the forefront of looking at where are the humanities going? Where are the arts going? But even more, where are the humanities going? What's the center of gravity for the humanities? How do the humanities relate to other sectors of the intellectual world, of the social world, of the political world? And I think that the Western and the community outside of Western desperately need people to be looking at where we're going, thinking about it, and moving forward, and not just continuing with what's been done for the last 150 years. It's funny, SASAH is what led me into what I currently do. And in fact, the very project I did with the person who's behind the camera here, it's because I taught the fourth year second term a few years ago and was asked to both go back to something earlier in the term and do something that had to do with indigenous culture, that I ended up with the students making first a documentary about an indigenous World War I soldier. I wasn't joking when I said I've filmed interviews in this room, because we filmed some of them here. And now that led to a whole research project underwritten by the Office of Indigenous Initiatives, which has created a documentary with indigenous communities about how they how they see education and where they see it going. My training is as a medievalist. My earlier books were on the Middle Ages, and then a book on the alphabet, but I would never have guessed that I would be led into, dragged into, pushed into doing projects with Indigenous leaders on Indigenous subjects, were it not for the SASAH class. It's the SASAH course that took me there. So it's not just what it's done for students, it's not just what it's done for the community. It is what it's done for me personally and intellectually that I'm sure would not have happened otherwise. What kind of student is a good fit? You mean like you? And it's funny, you're right, I do hit a lot on the fact that we all need to get out of our comfort zone. And I tell my colleagues, not just, SASAH shouldn't just be about the students getting out of their comfort zone, but also about the professors getting out of their comfort zone. And that's one of the things that SASAH has done. You come, we have a program where professors can propose a course they've never done, and it's to get them out of their comfort zone. So what do I see as the qualities for a SASAH student? I read I read most of the, in fact, I read all of the applications each year. The things that stand out, it's not enough just to be a good student in terms of grades. Students have to be deeply curious. They have to, I'm convinced that young people, and this is true of all students, they're actually really hungry. They're hungry for the big stuff. They're hungry for the deep stuff. But sometimes they don't know they are. SASAH students tend to come in knowing that they are. They want to address big things. Now, sometimes that's quite naive. I read many applications, students who say, I'm going to change the world. And the truth is, no, you're not going to change the whole world, but you may change something in the world. And part of what SASAH will do is help you find where that bit is that you could have a real impact and make a change in the world. But it's that, so yes, intellectually alive, good student in school, but there has to be something more. What else have they done? What else are they interested in? Occasionally, they'll send in a video that, it could even be quite comical. Daniel, who was in your class, sent in a quite comical little video, but it showed a desire for something more. So that's, I think, what really makes a SASAH student is that that willingness to go beyond the classroom and really find things on their own. Sometimes they've started a business, sometimes they've done some kind of philanthropical thing. It can be any number. Sometimes it's a musical instrument that or a kind of music they've gotten really interested in, or art. But it's that added part that really speaks to who the person is. The community for the students. Well, as you know, and because you were both in SASAH and Scholars, one of the real attributes of SASAH, and it's true of Scholars too, but one of the real attributes of SASAH is that it's not just a group of students, it's a community of students. That is to say, the students, they live together in residence, they talk about their projects, they help each other with their projects, they become each other's best friends. During the pandemic, especially the year before you, 2 years ago, in the fall, and this was before vaccines or anything, and the bubble for the students was the people in their residence. That's who they hung out with, that's who they went to class with, that's who they had dinner with. And it was because it was this tight-knit community that students weren't getting sick, because that was their world. They knew each other. They understood the responsibilities. They all stepped up and took responsibility. So this ability to have a tight-knit group where they are each other's support. You were in the class where famously, I won't name the student, but the student that put the comment on the essay that if the TA didn't like it, she would go beat him with the boom. And of course, we were charmed by that because of what it said was, I've read over your work, I've thought about it, this is really strong work, and I would go to bat to defend it, you know, if the TA somehow had a different opinion. And it's that mutual support system. And it's not just around work. That's also the group that they play, you know, you play together, you live together, you eat together, you work together. And that's absolutely marvelous. That's what a university community should be. Oh, okay. What does the future of anything look like? What does the future of SASAH look like? I wish I knew the answer. I like the question, but I wish I knew the answer. I think part of one of the interesting things about SASAH is that it's continually reinventing itself. And so from one year to another, this is one of the reasons that for the first term of the first year, I never repeat the curriculum. It's always, I mean, yes, there's a couple things from, you know, the year before, but it's not that you rewind it and then start running it again. It's always changing. It's that dynamic feature of it that is the most exciting. I think there was, this is kind of parenthetical, but when in Paris, when they first invented the newspaper Libération, they didn't have enough reporters, so they would have to send the sports reporter to cover a fashion shoot. They would have to send, you know, the political reporter to go to a sports event. And what they discovered was, it was exciting when you did things that you weren't expecting to do. And that's, I think, one of the things with SASAH is we're always looking to do new things. So, which is why I can't, in fact, tell you what it's going to look like in the future. All I can say is, it's probably not going to look just like it looks this year, which doesn't look like it looked 5 years ago, but it'll be continually evolving in step and hopefully even a little tiny bit ahead of where the rest of the kind of intellectual world and society is. So it'll be on the forefront. I think it'll be on the forefront. I am the very fortunate professor who's gotten to teach in SASAH every single year since it started. When it began, we had no idea what we were doing. Now we have half an idea of what we're doing. But it has been the most thrilling experience. To come to class once a week and to walk into the room and feel this absolute joy to be in there, to feel this sense that I would rather be here than anywhere else in the world, and to know that for the next 3 hours you're going to go. You know, you're going to go. That is an absolutely thrilling experience. It's what you would want to wish on every single class and every single colleague. So that it will be very hard the day that I have to say goodbye to doing it, because it is so thrilling to do year after year.
Actually, I didn't know that, or maybe like what you thought about when you were first.
I would say the first cohort, in some ways we were making it up a little bit as we went along. I remember the first project that I sent students to do out in the city, which in fact I'm going to kind of repeat this year for the first time. When the projects came in, there was a project that came in, and when I looked at it, it was a 7-minute video. I had tears in my eyes at what the students had done. I was so moved by it. I immediately sent it to our dean. I was so moved by it, and it was the simplest of things. And in fact, the students had asked me, "Will you check out a video camera for us?" And I said, "What for?" And they said, "We want to do a timeline on the chalkboard." And I thought, yeah, okay, sounds kind of boring, but yeah, okay. What they produced was so moving that I remember thinking, oh my God, this is the program. This is the program where that kind of thing, it was 3 young women came together and produced an absolutely beautiful piece of work. So that was unexpected. That level of creativity and thought and energy was completely unexpected.